All right, well, hearing none, I'd like to thank you all for joining us tonight for our workshop Wednesdays through DABL, Dane Arts by Local. And this is a presentation that is put on by Dane Arts, and we're very, very grateful for Dane Arts for over the past 5 years that we have done Dane Arts by Local, our DABL markets. It has provided a platform for Dane County visual artists and the greater business community to come together to build a dynamic partnership across all disciplines. So we're really excited to be here tonight. Tonight we have Tommy Sweeney, and he is talking about transitioning into art full-time, which is a really big transition and a really exciting thing to talk about, and we're really looking forward to it. So Tommy, in transitioning to full-time art, Tommy Sweeney will present tonight about the fundamentals as they apply to visual arts. The topics will include sales, production, and collections. Tommy's approach is based on a self-sufficient model that is supported by the clients. Tommy is a full-time fine artist who has been in the arts business since 1987. And he has been selling exclusively his own artwork for at least 7 to 8 years, maybe longer. And a little over a year ago, Tommy's wife, Ann, left her job as a creative service director to work with him full-time. Their studio is in the Cap East District, which is that beautiful view that you see behind him right now. That is the Galaxy building behind, or the Constellation building, I believe. And their studio, like I said, is in the Cap East District. And then we will make sure we share all of Tommy's contact information so you can reach out to him if you have further questions after tonight's workshop. But without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tommy. Take it away.
Hey, everybody. So I'm really excited to have everybody here. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. And my family doesn't want to hear about it anymore. So it's nice to have a fresh audience to talk shop. It's a super interesting topic that I'm kind of evangelical about, so I can go on and on. So you guys will have to rein me in if I go over. And the questions will be fun because it'll be all the stuff I forgot. I'd like to start by saying that actually I can see a lot of the names on here, and every single person I recognize is a better artist than me. So fortunately, making a living at art doesn't have anything to do with the quality of work, or I'd be fucked. But it does have a lot to do with process, and we can talk about that very easily. You know, I always tell people who are looking to transition into full-time art, I say, if I could talk them out of it, if there's something I could say that would make them not do it, that they shouldn't do it. This is a terrible idea. I held off doing it for decades because it's such a bad idea. But if you are unwilling to listen to that kind of reason, then let's talk about how it can be done. So basically, I start from a model that I use myself and one that I saw a lot of full-time artists using that I was working with over the years. And it's pretty pragmatic, and this is what I do every day, and if I'm not doing it, I'm thinking about it. So the first thing is if you are going to, drink water here. If you're going to want to make a career out of expressing yourself as an artist, your vision, the whole deal, then you're probably going to have to, go the small business self-employed route, filing for a sole proprietorship. I'm personally an LLC. That's stuff you can work out with your accountant, but it kind of means you're starting a small business. And the good news about that is the rules of a successful small business are the same for all small businesses. So if you think, boy, I'm embarking out on an art career, it's really scary. Don't be scared. It's the same as any other business, a coffee shop or a dry cleaner or a gas station or a restaurant. We all have the same rules to follow. And one of the things that includes is a measure of risk. So if you are wondering how you can move from a comfortable job that allows you to do art very seriously on the side safely, then I would encourage you to not consider making the transition, because it's there isn't a safely element to it. It's going to involve some risk. Although nowadays your steady job also has a bunch of risk. So maybe this is a good time to do it. But just know that to do this is going to expose you to risk, and the benefit needs to be better than the exposure to risk. And for me, frankly, being an artist full-time is cooler than I could have ever imagined. So I wouldn't trade it for anything. In fact, I have traded it for lots, but it's worth it to me. So knowing that you're going to enter into a small business, the cool thing is that you have to follow some simple principles that are simple but hard. So we're going to ignore the hard part and just focus on the simple. The first thing that you have to consider is balancing three elements: sales, production, and collection. Megan talked about that a minute ago. Sales is selling your work, production is making it, and collection is getting paid. Don't ignore that one. And if you're wondering, that's the hard one. So everybody wants to know how to sell their work. We'll get into that. That's also fun to talk about. Everybody on here is pretty serious artists as far as I can see, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on production. You've already got that figured out. And then finally, the collection, of course, that's the hard one. It seems like it would follow that if you sell somebody artwork, they'll pay you. There's more to it than that, and it's more nuanced than that. It's not a matter of showing up at somebody's house with a couple of friends. It's a nuanced conversation. But we'll get to that because everybody probably wants to know about the sales thing. I've been selling art for a long time. I've been selling my own art for a while, exclusively. And it's pretty simple to lay out, but again, it's not easy. It's just simple. So the first thing is you have to balance three more things. For the sales part, you have to understand who you are as an artist, understand what you want to communicate, what your deal is. We'll call that the brand, what people can expect from you as an artist. That's the hard part. Once you understand yourself properly as an artist, then you start to imagine who thinks that would be the coolest thing in the world and who has the money to pay for it to a level that will give you a lifestyle that you like. I mean, they have to not only afford it, they got to afford it on a regular basis. So as you are imagining who your ideal client is, you have to not just picture whether they like the artwork, but whether or not they can afford to keep you in a life to which you might be accustomed. It is okay to want to make a lot of money as an artist, because as a business, it's your moral obligation to run the healthiest business you can. And that's putting a price on your art. Putting a price on your art allows you to do your art. And it's a beautiful symbiosis. So figuring out who you are as an artist, your brand, figuring out who your correct client is, are the steps 1 and 2. And the third step is to show it to your ideal client. Oddly, that's the easy one, and that's the one that kind of trips people up fairly often. When I was selling art that wasn't mine, it was easy to understand from the outside what their artist brand was. It was my job to understand the client, and as the salesperson, all I had to do was show it to them. You don't need some kind of song and dance. You don't need a sales pitch. You don't need to be good at sales, well-spoken. You just need to show the right work to the right client, and it'll happen right there in front of you, and there won't be anything you can do to stop it. So it's the showing it to them part of the process will be easy if you've done the first 2 steps correctly. And if showing people the artwork isn't producing instant sales, then earlier in the process, you haven't done the proper work. So understanding your brand and understanding the client are the 2 hardest parts. So if you understand all 3 of those, that's what I call the sales part. So you mix the sales with the production, and you mix that with the collection, which we'll get into, and keeping the sales, production, and collection in balance is hard. But if you do it, it doesn't increase the odds of success. It guarantees success. So keeping those things in balance is pretty critical. You know, if you can't keep up with the sales, if you're producing work like crazy and just can't keep up, you have a production problem. If you've got a studio full of unsold work, you've got a sales problem. And if you're selling work and producing work and you don't have any money, you have a collection problem. And each one can't be fixed by racing in and giving the weak link everything you got. You have to keep everything in balance, even when you're trying to correct the balance. You can't, you know, I kind of like sales a lot. So whenever I felt like I needed money, it's easy to just pound on sales because that's what I do. It didn't help at all because I fall behind in production, I fall behind in collection. So they need to be in perfect harmony. Skipping the production, I'll go to that last because everybody's got that dialed in. The collection part of it is also a nuance. If you're at an art fair and somebody wants to buy art right there, they're going to hand you the money. Sales, production, collection. Sales and collection happened right in one move. That's awesome. But if you imagine, say, a commission or, you know, a suite of artwork for a client where you got to make it show up at their place with it, they're going to have somebody in an office send you a check someday. And you need to establish when that's going to be without sounding like a jerk. Because not only do you want to work with them right now, you want to work with them in the future. And if you're a big giant pain to work with, they're not going to want to work with you. But you also got to get paid. So you don't want to be you don't want to be a patsy either. So walking that line between how aggressive you are about collection and how much you forget about it is a nuance that is going to be guided ideally by your brand. Or, you know, if you attach how you do your collections to how you present yourself as an artist, keeping those in harmony is probably pretty good. So I wanted to do that speed round to break it all down. It's actually pretty simple. There are going to be a million questions. So based on that model and framework, I would be inclined to skip to the questions if we use this as our model. So, you know, Megan, if this is a spot where you want to open up for questions, you said there'd be 15 minutes of questions, but there will be 2 hours of questions.
Yeah, so does anybody have any questions off the bat right now? You're welcome to unmute yourself and start asking, or if you need to ask to unmute, I can also do that for you.
Yeah, I have a question. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yep.
Yep, can hear you.
Yeah, all right. I don't really use Zoom too often, so might be kind of not sure what I'm doing here. But anyway, you titled this How to Sell Art, right?
More or less, yeah.
Do you think there is a difference, and I think we've talked about this, between decor and art?
Well, so as you're establishing when you're establishing your brand, your identity, art and decor, it's a pretty interesting conversation that can keep two people up very late at night, Ken.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting one. But when I'm selling art, back in the day when I sold other people's art, that was an effective difference to pay attention to in my work. But as the artist, that's not a useful distinction, because if you think, boy, I could make more money selling decor than I could art, then you are selling your own brand short as an artist. So there's no point in doing this if you're not going to become like the best artist that you can become, assuming that's part of your brand as an artist. So you always want to be only doing the best possible work you can and only spending your time with people who thinks that's the greatest thing they've ever seen. We both know somebody who decided that there was a certain type of photography that they could sell because they see it's sold everywhere. And they're like, well, I'm going to do that kind of photography and make $1 million. And he didn't even get off the starting block because it wasn't his thing. It was an inappropriate work for him. So if you are changing who you are as an artist to sell work, then you haven't identified your client correctly. Your client will think that your ideal art is the coolest thing they've ever seen and will pay for it. So it's not a useful distinction. So there.
Mark, go ahead. It looks like you have a question.
Yeah, hi Tommy, good to see you again.
Everybody in this group is better than me. It's a little unnerving.
So what insights can you share with us regarding the clients? Where to get them, how to keep them? Well, I guess you've talked about how to keep them, but at some point, there are a bunch of folks out there, I presume, or I hope, that are looking to buy art, and there's me that is looking to sell my art. How, what's your strategy in terms of trying to make that connection between the buyer and the seller, where it's a good fit and equally beneficial to both parties?
You're a terrible example because the question, this is easy to answer for you specifically. So I'm not gonna, we can do that over cocktails. But in the larger sense, that's the car you want and go on the vacations you want. And that is hard if you try to just skip to the them give me money part of the conversation. It's understanding yourself is the hardest. And once you do that, though, once you understand what you are trying to communicate, what you're trying to put out there, then it's easier to identify who's missing that and where are they. It's a lot easier now. I mean, when we started, you had to move to a city to be an artist. You couldn't do it in Madison. Really, you couldn't do it in Milwaukee. You got to go to Chicago or the coasts. And now you don't have to. We can do it right here. So researching who your correct client is, well, it's still extremely difficult. It has been simplified with some of the resources that we have now. I started with an actual Rolodex on my desk, not an app, a Rolodex. And that was connected to the phone book. So I had the Rolodex sitting on the phone book, and next to those two things, I had a phone. And that's how I got it done. And the research part of it is pretty huge. Also, in my opinion, super fun. There's, between LinkedIn and Instagram and all that kind of stuff, and there's a lot of others that are industry specific. I personally really enjoy tracking down who a good client is, but there's not a batch of correct clients out there waiting to be found necessarily. What you're really doing is establishing a process that you use to find the correct clients. And sadly, that's gonna be different for every person. But the fun part though is that, or the good news is that's the fun part. I mean, I rather enjoy that. And especially when you kind of discover a new spot, a new type of customer that works for you. It's one of the funnest things in the world. I'm not a fisherman, but I'm sure there's some sort of metaphor there that is nice. Find a new fishing spot. Do they do that? Yeah. Anyways, I enjoy that part of it. Mark's work, for example, has the stuff that I'm imagining as part of this conversation as a pretty specific point of view that is easy to identify. Well, the easier to identify a point of view is the easier it should be to find the people that is speaking to. If somebody's, if you ask somebody, if somebody says, "What's your brand as an artist?" You're like, "I don't know. I just kind of create stuff when I have time, and I don't know. Maybe it'll be something someday." Well, it won't, because you haven't done anything with your identity, and it's got to start there. Your brand. It's a terrible word, but it's an accurate word for this conversation. Your brand is where it starts. And the better you develop your brand, the easier it is going to be. Not that it's easy, the easier it's going to be to identify your clients. I will say this. Of all of the horrific, worst artists I can imagine, and there's more than one, every one of them I know is making a full-time, comfortable living with their art. So if you're looking for justice, it ain't out there. Mercifully, it's not. It's about finding your client. It's not about being the best artist in everybody's eyes. I mean, how terrible would it be if there was like a government body that decided who was good enough to be an artist and who wasn't? Oh, that would be horrible. I come from the punk rock school, which says I'm not going to ask any permission. I'm just going to do it. Period. I'm not going to wait for somebody to tell me I can. I'm just going to do it. And if I do it incorrectly, then I'm going to do it incorrectly. But I'm going to do it because I want to. And, somebody's got to come up and stop me. So that's my long answer, Mark, to finding a big pile of clients.
I was going to say, it looked like Dustin had a question. Did you still have a question, Dustin?
No, I was just moving my monitor. Sorry.
Okay, no worries, no worries. Ken, did you have another question?
Yeah, I have so many questions, but I'm going to try to simplify it. Remember, Tommy and I go back to the Hyperion days. Does anybody know about Hyperion?
Let's just agree it was a while ago. We don't need to put a date on it.
Well, it failed, right?
Well,
What's that?
Steve is still plugging away. He's more dialed in even than he was before.
But it shrunk, right? Because it was a big operation.
Shrinking isn't failing. The size doesn't mean anything. One of the best things you can do to keep your business healthy is if your business is getting away from you and you've gone into different areas and there's a bunch of different people working there and it's not working, one of the best things you can do is focus on what you're good at, focus on what nobody else can do as well as you, and just do that. That's a good move in my opinion. Having done so myself more than one occasion. It's a big part of keeping a business healthy. Plus, you and I both know that some of the employees who worked there might have taken 3-hour lunches at Culver's and played football in the parking lot instead of working. That's a consequence of having too many staff.
Well, I will. I have a question about what it's called creative block, because I know I wasted years with a severe creative block. And I wonder if you personally struggled with that or how you overcame it, or...
You know what, this is a funny thing, because this is a good general question. But as an aside, when I have a creative hold up, when I'm not feeling it, I copy Ken's work directly to move further forward in my career.
Right.
I probably owe you a piece of it.
That's all right.
Every time Ken's new work comes out, I look at it and be like, oh, I don't understand this at all. It looks terrible. And then 3 years later, I look at it and I'm like, oh, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Yeah. And you can put in Ken's Instagram and my Instagram up side by side, shift them by 2.5 years, and they're identical. So my answer to everybody else is, when you have a creative block, copy Ken. The Ken,
That's very flattering, but
Well, I'm going to turn it into
know,
a larger point here.
yeah.
Ken's idea of a creative block, because Ken operates at 1,000 miles an hour at every moment. So his idea of a creative block is going 700 miles an hour. So in your mind, you have stopped. And to the casual observer, work is getting better and better over the years when you think it couldn't. So when you have a creative block that is brought on by, say, circumstances beyond your control, you just got to wait till you got to plow through them and just wait till the circumstances are back in your control. But if you're having a creative block, just as a matter of course, and you're struggling getting through it, that's one of the benefits of doing, if art is your sole income, the creative block, you get over it right away. It goes, if the creative block means you're not going to pay your mortgage or eat food, you get over it almost instantly. It goes almost immediately away. Some of it can be, if you go back to some of your old methods and some of your old moves, that can help just at least get things moving forward again. I have a policy of adding some new moves every couple of months, and that's really just for me to stay frosty. For other artists, they might feel like every piece they do has to be a magical, giant paradigm shifting leap forward. And if that's your brand identity, then yeah, you are going to have to wait out some writer's blocks, some art blocks, creative blocks. One of the things you need to do is make sure that you create a work environment where you can produce good work, that does foster creativity. Ken is not in his studio right now. He's in his daughter's playroom, but you do have a studio where you go and do real work, and that's separate from the rest of the world. You can't do it on a laptop on your couch where somebody else is watching Netflix. You can't do it in a coffee shop. You need to put yourself into a place where you can focus and dig deep and get real work done. And that's one of the costs involved with it's one of the parts of, it's one of the elements of risk associated with being a small business, is that finding that space and creating that space for yourself has a dollar value attached to it. And you have to weigh how good your space is against how much it costs, against how much creativity it fosters.
You had a good point there, and a word or two words that you keep using that I think a lot of artists have a hard time labeling themselves as is a small business. And I think that is really helps you wrap your head around the business aspect of the art and how you can make a living at it. I have a question in the chat here that I think you hit on the first part of it, but the second piece is, can you break down a little bit about your percentage of time you use to manage your art, produce your art, and promote it? Sort of those three buckets. How do you kind of divide up your time amongst those buckets?
Well, you got to get ahead of it. So if you are just reacting to what's happening in your career and in your life, that is you don't have your arms around your career. If you're reacting to stuff, you're not moving it forward. So you want to have your arms around it. You want to be the thing that decides what part of it you're working on. And it's not a matter of, it's hard to say time-wise. It's easier to say energy-wise. Energy-wise, you just do it in thirds: sales, production, collection. But time-wise, collection doesn't take that long of time necessarily, but it's still on your mind. So if we take the collection out of it, when I'm doing artwork, I don't do anything. I don't do any sales stuff. When I'm creating work, I don't answer sales emails. I don't answer sales calls. When I'm creating work, I'm just doing that. And when I'm doing sales, I don't also try to sneak in working on art. They are both important, and they both need to be kept separate. So if I drive out to meet with a client in a really beautiful spot, I don't throw a camera in the back of the car and try to shoot while I'm doing the sales call. And vice versa. When I'm out in the mountains shooting, I don't try to see clients. It's inefficient because you think, well, I'm all the way out here. I might as well see the client while I'm out here. But for me, in my process, I can't do both at the same time. I can do 2 sales meetings in a day. I can't do 3. If I do 3, one of them is going to suffer. So 1 at 10 and 1 at 2. If you're only going to do 1, do some at lunch. When you have a creative block that's on a smaller scale, it's great that's the time to turn to LinkedIn and emails and get caught up on all that kind of stuff. And then when you're not having a writer's block, don't stop for anything. When you're working and it's going well, don't stop. Stop until you are pumping mud. I don't stay here until 5 and then go home. I stay here till I'm done. And if I'm done at 2, I go home. If I'm done at 2 in the morning, I wait till 2 in the morning. So I don't pay attention to the clock as much as I do. When you're feeling it, work with what you're feeling. When I'm feeling salesy, I like to just focus on that, and I don't even worry about art. I don't even think about it. So that's how I keep the balance for my own process.
I have one other question in the chat, unless you want to go on and we can touch on that maybe later.
What?
I have one more question in the chat. I can either say that now or we can wait till we can see if you touch on it as you go forward.
No, part of my process is always doing it now.
Okay, now it is. I'll do it now. You touched on it a little bit, but one of the questions is, how do you meet buyers and what do you do to reach buyers? I think you like a little touch on with the LinkedIn and stuff, but could you go into a little more detail on how you meet them and how you reach them? And that might be different during pandemic times than other times, but maybe you could give a little insight to how you had to pivot during COVID times as well.
There's no pivot. COVID is a thing that you have to deal with, and when COVID is over, it'll be something else. It's always something. If you are waiting for the world to be right to move into art, you will wait forever. The world's never going to be right. It's never going to be the right time. It's never going to be a level playing field. There's, plus, if you wait for a fantastic economy to start your art business, that means everybody else is going to be reaping the benefits of a fantastic economy, and you're just getting started. I think right now is the ideal time to get in because it'll toughen you up. If you can do it now, what is a recession and a pandemic going to hit at the same time again in the future? Great. So what? This is my 3rd recession. I don't care. As far as the COVID affecting how I do it, like details, like I'm not hugging people and shaking hands and sharing food and that kind of things. You have to modify I have to modify my meetings to what my clients are comfortable with. Some of them like to still meet in person. Some of them want to keep it at arm's length. The Zoom is a good way to go. Me personally, the sun rises and sets with LinkedIn. I don't do anything on Facebook. All I do on Facebook is swear and antagonize people and post cat videos and motorcycle pictures. I don't think it has I have a lot of clients on Facebook with me, and they're clients that I could swear in front of. That's who I'm on Facebook with. As far as LinkedIn goes, those are people I wouldn't swear in front of necessarily. Those are people I would meet for lunch and that kind of thing. But as far as finding your audience, LinkedIn is absolutely fantastic for finding for finding my ideal clients, because there's a ton of tools on LinkedIn that make it really easy. What I don't recommend is writing a letter to every single person on LinkedIn that you sell art. It will be a waste of your time and it will make you look like a tool. So the best use of LinkedIn is research. And what I would do is, once I find somebody that I think would be a good client, I write them a message or a phone call very directly. It's not a chain or a form letter or something. I send a personal message saying, this is what I'm seeing here, and I think it's a good fit, and seeing if you agree is what it amounts to. If they don't agree, they will say, I don't agree. If they agree, you're off and running. I mean, it's not that simple, of course. I'm summing it up, but I think LinkedIn is a great tool. when you go to, going to a city where you think you would do well, you got to go there. You got to show up. They got to know who you are in person. And if the pandemic keeps you from being in person, you have to connect one-on-one another way. Zoom is great. I have a paid subscription to LinkedIn and Zoom, actually. And LinkedIn has got some products that are worth it for me to pay for. One of the reasons I pay for LinkedIn too is just guilt, because I make a lot of money off LinkedIn and I feel like I should kick a little back. I'm aware as I'm answering this question that it's driving somebody crazy that I'm not giving a specific answer to where to find their clients. And the reason I'm not giving a specific answer is because for my brand and for my identity as an artist, I know exactly where to find my clients, but that's for my clients, the people that are a good fit for me. I can't, that's going to be different for every single person. I tried for a decade to sell Ken's art and just couldn't do it. And it was maddening because I'm like, this is the coolest thing I'm showing you. And I couldn't do it. I could sell my art all day long. But that's only because I understand my clients, because they connect to me and my process as an artist. So it's not that I'm a bad salesperson. I'm an awesome salesperson, but I have to have the right work and the right client. And that's where most of my time is spent in research. So sales is reading things on the internet and driving in your car.
Getting out there.
Don't do it a little at the same time, maybe a little. Like
Only
if
if
you
you're
really know
not
the
the
road
driver.
pretty well and it seems pretty clear and the ice isn't that bad, you could probably do a little research, but
Yeah, get your partner to drive. That might be safer. Tim had a question to finish up our questions for this moment, unless we have others that pop up. So Tim, I'm going to unmute you if you can't do it yourself here. You should have had a little pop-up screen that came up that you can click. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for this presentation, by the way. So you said it's important to establish our own brand. I like to make one-off, one-of-a-kind type items, and that's what I'm passionate about doing. But I've found that having low price point items tends to be what I end up selling. Like when I do an art show, I sell a lot of these low price point things, and it's very few and far between that I sell the more expensive one-off things. I do get a lot of compliments on the unique pieces, and I'm wondering, and I know this is kind of a general question, but is having these low price point items, which do actually sell, is that going to be something that could potentially hurt my brand?
absolutely, because you're going to the wrong art shows. You're wasting your time with the art show where you're going to stand there all day selling 100 people something for $10. If what you have over your shoulder is an example of your work.
That's a friend of mine's, actually.
Well, you copy your friend because it's pretty cool.
It is. Yeah.
But in general terms, it feels to me like you are not using your time well, because if not only are you selling inexpensive pieces to a lot of people, they're going to come back the next time you're there, and they're not going to want to buy more expensive stuff. They're going to want to buy more inexpensive stuff. But it does say that your work is reaching people and it's cool, right? So you just need to find what type of person would buy your one-offs for real money. What person is that? They're not going to art shows. You and I both know that. Where are they going? Is there if it's pieces that maybe an architectural firm would use in some of their work, you got to call those guys. If there are furniture dealerships that specialize in having, maybe not even specialized, but are kind of proud to have some wow pieces in there, you got to find those guys. You have to find the people who are spending real money on bespoke work. And I can tell you that they are out there. I watch them do it all the time. If you want to have a more specific place to look, I would get in touch with the guys at Flux Design in Milwaukee, because all they do is badass shit for a fortune.
Yeah,
And,
my friend who made this thing, he used to work there.
okay, well, so I thought I was picking that up a little bit. So
Yeah.
we get in touch with those guys, and you will find that they are all, from the top leader all the way down to the lowest guy, they are all extremely enthusiastic about supporting their peers. Flux Design just spent a bunch of energy getting one of their direct competitors off the ground and up and running. So these guys don't play their cards close to their chest. What they do is they make badass stuff that is badass, and they know how to sell it. They're not afraid of competition. Nobody making original work should be afraid of competition. It's not a zero-sum game. That's one of the things that artists, this isn't you, I'm going off on another thing, but artists often think if they are getting customers from one person, they're taking customers away from another artist. That's never true. The thing that somebody's going to spend money on that you built, they're not going to spend it with anybody else if you found the right person. You have no competition. So unless you really enjoy making small, inexpensive pieces a lot, no, nobody does.
Sure.
Yeah. Like there would be even ways to make it that more streamlined of a process, but it's not fun. You're not putting your future at risk to just make a job for yourself. You're trying to be great. We have one of the few jobs where you have to go to work every day and not just show up on time and stay the whole day. You have to go to work every day and be amazing every day. Amazing. So you're not going to be amazing making trinkets. Do your amazing work that nobody else can touch and find the client for that. And give Jeremy a call, Flux.
All right. Thank you.
There's another House of Rad in the same neighborhood. Resident artists doing, it's a stupid acronym, but it's House of Rad. They just started up, and they're doing some cool stuff as well, actually. But all those guys are connected to dealerships, designers, architects, decorators, property managers. They're all plugged into all that stuff. So get plugged into all that stuff, but get plugged into the people that think what you're doing is the coolest thing they've ever seen. And also, next time you go on Zoom, have some of your work hanging behind you, not somebody else's.
All right.
Mark Welter, is it okay, Tommy, that we're still hanging on questions? Is this?
I'm not going anywhere. I got this. We got plenty of time left.
Mark Weller, why don't you ask your question?
Tommy, what's your sense of getting credentialed via the museums? You get your work in an art museum, it's a juried show. A lot of artists come out with a BA or MFA. I don't have that. I had a whole
something
other
like that
career.
pay.
What's that?
What does something like that pay?
To be in a museum, rarely
museum shows pay.
Museums, they don't pay.
Well, I think you'd be better off with the art show selling that guy's trinkets for $10 each.
Gotcha.
As a full-time artist, clients that don't pay, if all they offer is credentials or street cred, it doesn't work for me. I know it works for a lot of people. Some of my favorite artists are properly credentialed. Like I said, I'm from the Clash School of Art. I'm not interested in the credentials. I'm interested in doing what I want to do, period. And I don't need somebody else to tell me I'm good at it. If my clients like it, that is the only person that matters to me when I've already created artwork that I like. The next person that I care about is whoever's going to pay for it. And they do care about it. Spending a lot of money to put a show up in a display space where they're just letting you show your work and maybe having it for sale. I haven't seen there's nobody I know that's turned that into a lucrative, steady career. It feels nice. I'm doing it right now. I'm doing I'm in a show that's purely for street cred to make myself feel cooler, and it doesn't pay a goddamn thing. I had to pay to do it, and I just did it to be cool. So, and it's for a charity that is cool, but as far as my business plan goes, there is no non-paying customers in there that isn't going to do something greater. Like I participate in a lot of programs where art is donated, and I believe in what the programs do. But really, the art is donated to these programs that is that a lot of my clients, architects, designers, they're programs that they pay very close attention to. So we can all agree that I'm doing something wonderful for the community, but I'm not. I'm just showing cool work to people that pay attention to that kind of thing. So it's financially minded. I don't care about credentials. None of my clients have asked me about credentials. I live downtown Madison, which is close to the UW, and that's the closest I've ever gotten to college. I went to art school for about an hour. I went to a really prestigious, super fancy art school where they paid for my whole tuition, and I was gone before Thanksgiving. So credentialed, man, it doesn't work for me. But it works for some people. I'm not here to tell anybody how their process should be. What I am here to tell people is that they should pay very close attention to what process is right for them and develop their process very purposefully. I'm aware that a bunch of curators probably just turned this off.
No, that's good advice, and even, running an art gallery myself for years and not always being able to pay artists, but providing the space, that was always a quandary, right? Like, how can I figure out how I can at least pay them for their time? And it was a really hard struggle, but it's really important. And it's really important to ask for that compensation when you're doing something for your time and your talent. So,
well, don't. That's an excellent point. Actually, I'm embarrassed that I didn't bring it up first. Don't charge for your time and your talent. Charge for your work. Charge for the finished work. Don't charge for your time. That's absurd. If you're good at what you do and you get it done quick, awesome. If it takes you forever, you don't get to charge more for it. Just charge for the finished work that is work that you're proud of and is part of a proper part of your brand. Talent, man. Don't charge for talent. Talent is kind of a mystical made up word, really. Charge for a lifetime dedication to your work. But talent is a slippery term that I want to just kind of gently back away from completely and tell people not to charge for their time. As an artist, do the best possible work you can and make the most amount of money you can from it. I mean, that's coffee shops are doing that. They're making the best coffee they can, trying to make the most successful business they can. Nobody's mad at them for being successful selling coffee. So
I have a quick question for you. Well, maybe it's not that quick. What kind of whiskey is that?
This is single barrel, 4 Roses bourbon.
That was an art piece in and of itself. We do have about 5 minutes left. So Ken, did you have an additional question?
Yeah. So, I feel like a lot of what you're talking about is mechanization for the sake of income, which is noble, and I understand.
That's exactly what it is. That's a better title for this program than mine was.
Well, the problem is that as an artist, though, there is a difference between what I want to say is a searching and not being afraid of making mistakes. And you can't always sell mistakes.
I don't even try to sell mistakes. I make 99 mistakes for every one thing that's cool. And that's why I have an office that's not open to the public, because nobody see the mistakes. I don't print the mistakes out and hang them up in the window. They quietly get put away, and I try to learn from them if I can. But the searching for, I think every artist I know, the searching and the exploration into who they are and how they relate to the world is absolutely part of their identity as an artist. That's the joy of it. This is like the worst way to make money. So there better be something in it. There better be a lot of money. More importantly, it better be something that you can't wait to do every day.
Let me say this though. I would rather be a poor artist searching for something great than a successful artist that, like you described, is not very great.
Well, I think the artist it's on them to be great. I'm not asking somebody to be great. I mean, if I'm doing well as financially, I don't think I'm not great. I think I like the progression I've made as an artist in the last decade quite a bit. So I don't apologize for being a successful business for 1 second, and I don't apologize for being a successful artist for a second. The two aren't mutually inclusive. Also, you have kids, so you don't get to just explore and be poor.
I know, but if I could just give out one secret, I don't watch TV at all, ever. And that affords me time that is, I think, other people's lives, other people's dramas, it's just not for me. But I think there's a value to being an artist, for sure.
All of us are risking our whole careers on it.
Yeah. I guess that value remains to be seen, because I know that the arts are under attack, specifically by the Trump administration, not to exclude anyone. So yeah, the arts, I believe in them, and I think everyone here does.
As an artist, as a person, my art isn't under attack by anybody. Nobody's going to attack my art, my artistic vision, my work is not under attack by anybody, and I would never let that happen. My vision as an artist is something that I'm going to protect against anything that's coming at it. And I don't need a level playing field. I don't need the politics to be good. I don't need the world to agree on values. I only need to do my work as best I can and find the people that think that's cool. There is zero politics in it, and there is it's really pretty simple. And my work isn't going to be affected by other people, and whether they're important people or not important people. My work is going to be affected by a little bit stealing from you, to be perfectly honest, because
look, someone's at least someone's doing something with it, right? I mean, otherwise, maybe it's going to be at a garage sale or something, and someone's like, "Oh, $5 for this? Are you serious?" So yeah.
But the thing is,
I'm not jealous or feeling tread upon.
We have a spectacular family, and I do not have any family at all. So,
your lovely wife.
well, yeah, I mean, when you say family, we're actually including our cats. But
gotcha.
Here's the important, though. I want to spend a minute on that.
Sorry.
There isn't a conflict between doing the best work you can as an artist and moving yourself forward and history forward. There isn't a conflict between that and running a proper business. If you don't want to mix business with your work, then do another thing for money and then just focus on your art purely for aesthetic purposes. If you want to transition into full-time art, it is going to require that you expose yourself to some risk and to pay attention to the business part of it. To say, I'm just doing crappy art to run a good business is as idiotic as saying, I'm not running a good business because my art's so awesome. I mean, both of those things are ridiculous. Don't be afraid of sticking up for your business, and don't be afraid for sticking up for your art. It takes everything you got, everything you have.
I have one more question in the chat, Tommy, and then we are at 8:02. So I do want to be mindful of everyone's time, but I want to make sure I get this last question in before we finish up for today. The question is about any advice on follow-up with potential buyers. This individual has had interest in their art and they've shared details and price and everything, but they don't always get a call back. So how do you do that follow-up without being too pushy, but really wanting to be straightforward and straight up with your clients and find out if they want to close the deal?
That's an excellent question. I like to lose about 50% of my sales. If I got every project, I'm charging too little. If I don't get any projects, I'm charging too much. But more importantly, I probably am not talking to the right potential client. So when I'm in the course of a year looking at the projects that I got and didn't get, I like to be at about half. I don't want to charge half as much and do twice as much work. I want to make the most amount of money from the least amount of work possible, because I want that work to be astonishing. I want that work to mean the world to me. And you can't do it if you're chasing after projects that you're charged too little to begin with. So getting a sale isn't a success, and losing a sale isn't a failure. That's part of the process of finding the right client for you. And that's going to take some moving around, and it's not failure or success. If you don't get the sale, you didn't charge too much, you just didn't find the right person. And that is as important as being the right artist for you. It's going to be for everybody different. So if somebody seems like they're going to say no to me, I don't even let the whole word no get out. If I hear, I end the conversation. I don't even wait around for the rest of no. I have no interest in trying to talk somebody into something. Also, as far as follow-up, I do make a little bit of an effort to not do follow-up when a normal sales guy would, because if they're serious, they will call me back, or write to me back. They'll get back in touch with me if it's the right thing, and if it's not, I won't bug them. That's kind of snotty, but that's why we are not airing this on LinkedIn. This is something I would just share just quietly, privately amongst us 10 or 35 or 700.
We'll let you know those totals later.
Fortunately, it's not going to be saved for posterity and aired later.
Yeah, right. So yeah, it sounds like, sort of that straight up and straightforward at the front end. And if they come back to you.
I'm gonna say it over. You got to know yourself as an artist, and you have to know your client. It's on you to know both. And once you get that dialed in, the closing of the sale is going to happen. It doesn't. If it takes work to close a sale, like real work that you're uncomfortable with, that's your first sign that it might not be the right thing.
Excellent. Well, I think that seems like a good point to end on. Thank you so much, Tommy. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. I do want to remind everyone that in the chat, we just placed the post-event survey, so please hop on there and fill that out. That you can also share ideas with other workshops. If you're finding these workshops valuable and you'd like to see them continue in the future, we would love to know that. So we can make sure we get that out there. And I am scrolling down because I want to remind you that our next workshop is coming up in 2 weeks. We're going to have Ginger Ann talking with us about science and art, the fusion of the two, and how we advance responsibly to the public and to the public good and amplify the artist business. So it's sort of that art and science collaboration and fusion, and how we can move forward for the public good. So that will be really exciting to hear about. I did pop Tommy's LinkedIn and Instagram profile as well as his website down there. So make sure you get on and check out his work. And you can always reach out to him with more questions or to have that cocktail at some point to discuss those other pieces. So thanks everyone. Thanks Dane Arts. Thank you DABL for all being part of this. We appreciate it, and have a great night everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Tommy.
This is worse than ending a call with my parents. How do you get out of this thing?
Lower right says end.
Yeah, what's going on with the green screen? That's pretty
Yeah.
original.
It's a built-in like Zoom feature, so I just.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
So you have to have a certain kind of computer, and then it's just in the video settings. All right, we're gonna be closing the event, so I'll see you later, Ken.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Say hey to the fam, Ken. Oh, he left already.
Oh, sorry, I booted him.
Sarah,
Thank you, guys. This was a lot of fun.
Sarah, are we still live on Facebook?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Turn that off, huh?
Thanks. And it